Hi, I'm James Turner. I'm an advisor with IBRS. We are an Australian research and advisory firm, and we're supporting the local market as it moves towards the cloud and supporting businesses through the better use of technology. So today I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Wissam Raffoul. Wissam has done a lot of research over the past few years around IT as a service. He's written over 27 research notes or advisory papers on the topic, and today he's going to be sharing with us just a couple of slides to give a good overview of the domain and to provide some guidance for those of you that are on this particular journey. So Wissam, thank you so much for joining me and for your time.
Thanks, James, for the introduction.
You're most welcome. So let's get straight into it. So we're going to be talking about the IBRS software as a service migration methodology. Let me move to slide number 2 now. And let me open with a question. Why are IT organizations slow in migrating to software as a service?
Okay, if we look at the market situation 5 years ago, not many IT organizations were migrating to the cloud because they used to consider it too risky. However, the situation has changed over the last 2 years. Now we see many IT organizations have already migrated or are in the process of migrating to some form of the cloud, like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and so on. And the business driver behind this migration is to save money. However, the situation is different in case of the software as a service. The software as a service migration involves the legacy applications. And legacy applications in Australia are highly customized to reflect the business operations. So any disruption in the migration would disrupt the business and might cause embarrassment in the media. So in this light, many IT organizations have considered the migration of legacy application to SaaS as a risky business, and they are doing nothing about it. We believe this situation can be overcome if a step-by-step approach is adopted to prepare a business case which answers 4 key questions. The first one, what's the total cost of migrating to the cloud, including customization if need be? Number 2, what's the value an IT organization can realize from the cloud? The third thing is, of course, there are risks. So what are the risks in operating into the cloud and how they can adequately be mitigated? And the last one, prepare a realistic implementation plan to make it all happen. So this is why, James, many IT organizations are slow in migrating to software as a service.
Interesting. And so what are the ramifications for not migrating to SaaS in a timely manner?
As the business impact, if you look at the business nowadays, they are striving to launch new products and services to the market as quickly as possible. So the speed is a critical success factor. Now, if a legacy application stayed in an IT operation, if you want to release it, it might take weeks before you get it correct and in a production type situation. However, you can do the job in a couple of hours in the cloud due to the automation offered by the cloud service. That's the first thing. So they would lose on speed and it affects the business operation. The second part, they can remove the IT inefficiencies. Most of the in-house IT operations have, for example, a limited hardware capacity, and therefore that's not sufficient for the business to grow. They have a lot of single point of failures in terms of hardware, software, people, data center, which can cause unscheduled downtime, and in today's term, it's embarrassment in the media. So the cloud avoid all these issues. You have as much capacity as you want from the hardware. It's highly resilient, so the frequency of outages in the cloud is far less than what an internal IT organization are experiencing, and so on. So being late in migrating to the cloud means you need to live with the current IT inefficiencies. The third area is it reduces the business responsiveness. Now, the business trying to respond to the market forces by being innovative. Innovation requires an IT innovation. And to be able to innovate in IT, you need, again, the speed. You need to be able to create a test environment very quickly. You need to be able to modify it at ease, where, if you like, an internal IT operation doesn't offer that. The in-house architecture and its associated operation is rigid by nature. It's highly controlled because it's risk sensitive instead of being favoring efficiencies. And the third area is about most of IT organizations are perceived by the business as high cost, low quality because they view them as tactical, not strategic. The business wants IT to become more of strategic advisor. And by doing that, they need to directly support the business operations, which the cloud can offer for the moment. By being late in going through it, you're slow by nature. And the last one, due to the complexity of the internal IT operation, IT staff have no option but to spend most of time on addressing technology issues instead of finding ways to provide the strategic advice to the business. And by not using the cloud, they cannot get out of this mode of operation, James. And that would happen if you do nothing.
Very, very interesting. I'm hearing a lot of harmonics with MySpace and security and risk as well, but it's fascinating hearing you talk through this. Let's go to the next page. And my question for you is, so, okay, you've pointed out why it's important and the impact if you don't. So who can and who cannot migrate to software as a service?
It depends upon the status of the legacy application and the level of customization. And from that angle, we defined 5 levels of maturity for an IT organization. The first level would be, for example, the majority of the applications are highly customized, or what we refer to as bespoke. In that angle, IT organization in that space believe that a cloud is not applicable to them and they are doing nothing. We believe it can still be investigated by using the methodology we're talking about, because it can generate a business case which tackle these 4 areas for any decision making: cost, value, risk, and implementation plan. If they find certain bespoke application which can be replaced by cloud services, then that method get them to that decision point. So that's the first level. Level 2 is we see organization who implemented standard packages with little customization, like email, for example. Not many IT organizations customize it. They use it in a standard way. CRM in the same way. So this type of organization have already migrated certain application to the cloud, but we do not think at the right speed or enough pace. So by using our methodology, they can accelerate that. And by doing that, they improve their IT operation as well as the business operation. The third area, which is the major problem, that's where most of the standard packages were implemented, like SAP, Oracle, but they were highly customized in Australia, and that's the problem. So organizations in this space believe that it's too risky and they are doing nothing. We believe, again, by using the same methodology, it will give them options to move forward, to get to level 4. And level 4 is, after building a business case which is viable, level 4 is all about giving the alternatives, how they can be implemented and by when can be implemented. Is it going to be a 2-year strategy or 5-year strategy, and establish the right contract from that context. And hopefully, if they move over level 4, that's where the benefits will be realized. Level 5, which we like to see that the business benefits of moving to the cloud have been realized. So this is who can do it and who cannot do it.
That's really interesting because, I mean, you can see very clearly there that there's an ongoing cost in getting there, you know, right up until you actually get to level 5 of the realization.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question as we move to the next slide. What's a safe method to migrate to the cloud?
Well, you need the methodology, and this is why we are running this section. And the methodology we created, it's a top-down methodology. It's like a roadmap. You can see every phase and with enough detail. It's not only a motherhood statement. This slide is the top-down approach. If you see, if you like, the middle row colored in blue is the major components of the methodology. For example, you need to start by assessing the situation. Where are you? And to do that, it clarifies the input, which is at the top row, which say, okay, you need to look at the market trends. Who is doing it? What are the lessons learned? And so on. And then why you want to do it, why the business wants to do it, and why IT wants to do it. So these are the two components which serve as an input to the assessment. So by doing the assessment, we need to produce two things. The first thing is, well, you need to say, I have a compelling business case. And the second way is, what's the strategy of implementing that business case, which we refer to the migration strategy. And the migration strategy could be either you're gonna do it totally external to the market, and that's what means go to the market strategy, or you can build it in-house, which we refer to it at a later stage at the in-house migration methodology. Assuming for the moment that you're going to go to the market, then what you need to produce there, you need to produce an expression of interest. No one nowadays go for open market because it costs a lot of money to evaluate. Select 5, 6 vendors initially to approach them to assess their capability, and based on that probably select 4, and you prepare a request for proposal, a detailed specification, and you approach these 4. And during the evaluation, you come up with the top 2. Then again, it's not that easy, so you allow them to do a due diligence, understand more your site, so they can refine their cost, and then you select, if you like, the preferred one, and you keep the other one on hold until you go through the contract negotiation. And the contract negotiation, you need 2 things. What we like to highlight here, in addition to the things you expect them to do, you don't sign the contract unless you are happy with the way they're going to migrate. Because if the migration is not right, then that's where all the risks is going to happen, and that's where the embarrassment is going to happen everywhere. So accepting the migration strategy is a prerequisite to sign the contract. Now, the second leg, if you assume in-house migration strategy is the way to do it, that's fine as well. But what you need to produce an IT as a service strategy. In other words, you're turning yourself to an internal service provider. You need to emulate the external services commercial practices. And this is where the decision would make. So the business decision makers, they're going to see 2 options. We can do it by going to the market, or we can do it in-house, and they select the one which is more sensible. And then you go to the migration. Within the migration, they do not have to do all the legacy application in one shot. We recommend that 1 application at a time. So you select one, which is the most candidate, and you make sure it happens. But that's not the end, because if you don't manage the environment at a later stage, it's going to break, and that's where the governance comes. And there you're going to implement the service provider management practices such that the daily operation procedure between you and them, how it's going to work. And unfortunately, the situation is not static. Everything is dynamic nowadays. The business keeps changing almost every quarter in certain cases, and therefore the IT has to change to reflect the business changes, and the cloud strategy has to be modified to reflect the new direction of IT. So there is a review phase. In the review phase, you assess if the business benefits of moving to the cloud or the first application were realized. If yes, you repeat it for other applications. If not, you go back and reassess, and so on. So that's at a very high level how the methodology should work.
You're making a great point there, because, you know, as you said, it's a really dynamic environment for business and for the industry as well. And so if you're not actually maintaining some sort of control over this, then you run the risk of just completely galloping away. So,
okay.
Yeah, so let me move on to the next slide now. And So this is assessment tasks, and I'm interested in understanding how detailed is this migration methodology, because that's quite a lot of information you've got there.
Well, many methodologies were criticized for being motherhood statement. So take the major activities, and when people come to implement it, they say, well, how I'm going to do it? I have no idea. So we avoided all of that. So every phase is highly detailed, and that's only an example of the first phase. Why you need to do an assessment. You see the first column is the major activities, the major tasks, which tackle the major points of the business case. For example, the first one is assess the application architecture layer. I want to understand the risks from the technology perspective and move into the cloud. The second line is identify the potential risks. So I'm not jumping to the cloud with the eyes closed. So I understand them, and at the same time, we're trying to mitigate them as part of the business case. The third line, if you don't understand the existing costs of providing the service, you cannot justify the business case. First thing, understand the current costs so you can estimate the potential saving in the cloud. And you make it inherent in the contract so that you want the service provider to help you to reach that target. And the following activity will be what you're going to get out of it. What's the value of SaaS? You need to be clear about it. And the last one, are you ready? Are you level 1, bespoke, or level 3, or level 4? How you move forward. So these are the basic activities which directly contribute to the foundation of the business case. You go to the next column is a subtask. So how you assess the application architecture layer, and that tell you how to do it. Okay, for every task and subtask, I need to have an input from where I'm going to start. In this case, in the assessing the application architecture layer, the input will be the application architecture document, whatever it is. This is where you need to start. And the output, you're going to make a statement that this architecture is suitable to go to SaaS or not. You want more details? You go to the last column, which is our IBRS research. For example, we have a publication on how to clarify the needs for software deployment with a cloud context. So you can go to that research and find, you can use it as a checklist to do your task. And similarly, it goes to the next line and so on. So in the research at this point in time, as a service research has about 27 publications or 28 publications already published, and a good about 12 to 20 related simply to cloud. So you have over 40 publications to substantiate this methodology. That's why we don't believe it's the motherhood type methodology at all. James?
It's a huge amount of work that you've put into that and extremely detailed. So let me move to the next slide. And this is the question of how to move forward. If I'm interested in following your advice on this one, what do I do?
Well, assume you want to use that methodology to move on. So the first thing you need to say, where am I? Am I level 1 or level 2, level 3 in the maturity level, which we talked about? And that defines your position and how you're going to move forward. That's the first thing you want to do. The second thing, you need to select a team which prepare the business case. And the business case, in a nutshell, you should answer 2 questions. The first question is feasible. Are we taking unnecessary risk? We are aware of the risks and they are properly mitigated so we can move forward from the risk perspective. That's the first question. The second question, is it cost effective? Are we going to make money out of it? Are we going to realize business benefits? Can we do nothing? Or these sort of things. The team must answer these 2 questions. And a third bullet point is, it's not a CIO job only to do it. There are many people involved into it. People from the business side, people from the executive layer, and the IT professionals who will be involved in the day-to-day operation. For example, we need the business owners, the legacy application business owners, to be on board with the whole migration, and probably they should be the sponsors of all this project. We need a sample of end users who use the legacy application on a daily basis, and they can provide insight if the things which would affect the business operation if things go wrong. What are they? What are the times you can implement changes? End of year, end of month, all that stuff. And these sample of end users are critical for the success of the project. The third area, you need executive layer to be involved, be it CIO or equivalent, or business general managers. And the last component, the IT professionals. It's a complex matter. It involves most of the groups in IT. Application groups, because we're talking about the legacy application, the infrastructure group, who knows the current limitation of the hardware and software and can define what sort of requirement they need from the cloud. The service desk, because you're going to have a new environment, you might need to change your mode of operations. It's not only a traditional service desk. You might be able now to provide self-service on live chat, which is the modern way of fixing problems. And the last group definitely is the network, is the access. You want to make sure they can access anytime from anywhere. And this group would be able to prepare the business case and the migration strategy. And the migration strategy, as we said before, either go to the external market or you do it yourself. And once you get to that, then you can put the business case in front of the business executive so they can make a decision to proceed or not to proceed. So this is how our clients should go about it, James.
That's fantastic, Wissam. Thank you so much for sharing. What is obviously a very considerable amount of work that you've done in this space. Both in terms of thinking, but also with the clients. Very, very interesting to watch and listen to. So let me conclude the presentation now and say, if any of this has resonated with you and this is an issue for you and your organization, please get in touch. Obviously, we're here to make a difference and we're here to help. And Wissam's expertise, as you can see, is there on tap. So there are the contact details for IBRS. And Wissam, thank you so much again for your time.
My pleasure, James. Thank you.